Good morning, it's Megha. Good morning.
Morning.
It's Megha. I will draw your kind attention towards a serious problem of terrorism. As he told that he is working for polio and in the zoo is also working, that's great. I really get impressed from that. I will ask you that, I don't know your views about that. How can we abolish or finish this terrorism from anywhere? So India also. You must know about the Mumbai blasts. I want to know your views. How can this bloody terrorism can be abolished from anywhere?
How can terrorism be abolished? Well, that's a very, very big question. Conflicts and terrorism, I believe, will be halted is by talking and negotiation and reconciliation. Yes.
Negotiations, this terrorism can be abolished from that. I don't know. I don't know anything good about this. Means how can we completely abolish that? I'm very serious about this matter.
Very, very last resort. Nobody wins in conflict, and there are no winners at all. And if it comes to a point where conflict is necessary, then the war is already lost. So you have to continue, and it may take a long time, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, and it'll be very difficult. Clear vision of the future, and you're very young, and you hope when you grow up and you get married and your children, you want your children to inherit a peaceful place. So it's up to you as a younger generation to make peace now for the future. Making peace is very, very difficult. Making war is very easy. So sometimes you have to take the difficult path.
I agree with you. I want to know your views also.
Okay. I think we have to understand each other to be able to sort of respect each other, and when that happens across the world, then disputes are more easily resolved. Going back to Rotary, we are a global organisation, and peace is a very important part of our activity. We have an international conference each year, and this year it is in Great Britain. And the first day is spent just thinking about peace and conflict resolution, how to resolve the differences between peoples. A lot has to do with leaders of countries, the attitudes that they have. And I think it's, without becoming too political, I think it's fair to say that we have moved from an era of President Bush and his attitudes towards other countries to President Obama, who gives, I think, more hope to your generations that we may be moving to a more peaceful and a time of greater understanding. In his inauguration speech, you may have heard that, he did reach out to other faiths, other ethnic sort of groups, and say, we must talk to each other. It's no good just making lists of people we like or people we don't like. We have to see what we have in common and how we can work together. Terrorism is, to those who are against it, they use that word to describe an evil sort of state of mind. But the people who support it see only heroes, if you like, freedom fighters, people who are working to move their people out of injustice, out of poverty and so on. So we have to perhaps forget those words and concentrate on understanding each other. One of the biggest problems in the world is poverty. Poverty and hopelessness. The difficulty of having a job. And if young people are denied the opportunity to work, then they are more susceptible to the words of older people who can persuade them to do evil things. so the answer is we must look at poverty and how we can address that. Unfortunately, we are now entering a very difficult time for the whole world financially. We are seeing it very much in the West. At the moment, because you are a developing country and your economy is growing all the time, you're not seeing quite the same things. But if you read the international newspapers, you will see the warning signs of difficult times we have to go through. I grew up in a difficult time just after the Second World War. And we didn't have very much then, but we were always worried where money was coming from. And now we seem to be moving through another period like that. But what we have to do, we in the West especially, we have to, it's interesting, I belong to a campaign called Trade Justice, and we understand that at the root of most problems in the world is the fact that the rich want to get richer, and they don't mind if the poor get poorer. It doesn't worry them. And we have to work at those issues and try to make the world fair for everybody, and in that way we remove the causes and the needs for evil actions which we are calling terrorism. But it's not possible to give you a simple answer. If we had the answer, Richard and I, we would not be here, we would be in government or something. But we have to understand each other, and we have to be kind to each other, and we have to help those who are less fortunate. And if we all do that across the world, then of course many of these problems wouldn't just simply resolve.
Good question, thank you.
Much harder question.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Ankur Bhatra. I want to ask, what do you think about the relationship of our country and your country, and how can we make it stronger?
Well, Jersey is a very small place, and but we are linked to the UK in a very close way. And I think the links between India and the UK are very strong. There's a huge Indian community in London and in the north, in Bradford, and where's the other big community?
Well, Leeds.
Yeah, Leeds, yeah. So some cities are almost dominated by the Indian community, and you can see the culture and the sights and smells of India on the streets of Britain, and so coming here is not alien to us. It's very adaptable. But through trade and communication, I think you have a lot of UK tourists come here to India. I think more so than any other country in Europe, English people have a certain connection with India. Maybe that's because of the historical past, but I think they are genuinely fascinated about your culture here, and that's why you get so many British tourists. So I think through obviously trade and yourselves going over to England to work, and tourists coming to India to see the sights and meet the people, I think that's how relationships are built.